So why don't you tell me a little bit about your character?
Yeah, sure. Really excited to play him. So his backstory is he doesn't trust anybody. His family was slaughtered when he was a kid. Basically his army of goblins came in, raided his village. He was just kind of hiding, and it really was. He was kind of lucky that he didn't get killed, but because of that, he tries to just be by himself all the time. He's got a cabin in the woods. Yeah, he doesn't want anything to do with anybody. If someone even comes and talks to him, it's kind of he tends to just like shoot first and ask questions later. But you're gonna like him. You'll see. It's gonna be awesome.
So how is this character that hates people and interaction gonna join a party with all the other players?
Oh, I don't know. You're the DM. I figured that was, that's your job.
Okay. We're talking how to make a good character in D&D.
Wait, you're saying that's not a good character concept?
Hey everybody, welcome back to another video from JNJtabletop. I'm Josh. With me as always is Jake. And today, if you probably figured it out from the intro, but we're going to be talking about how to make a good character in D&D, and really just tabletop RPGs in general. We put together a list, and Jake is going to start that off for us, and we'll learn together.
So the very first point that I have is when you're playing a game, unless you really have some kind of specific mindset, and kind of what I mean by that is if, say, you're like, let's all get together and play a spy game, or we're going to be members of this army, or we're all, I don't know, farmers, whatever that case may be, is something like really specific. The very first thing you have to do is you make an adventurer. I know it's easy to think like I'm going to make a character because that's what it's called throughout all of the terminology of all the books and all the things. But, sometimes people get focused on making like maybe like a hero that they might be interested in reading about in a book or watching a movie. And a good adventurer is someone who's looking to go on an adventure. Someone who wants to, if they hear a mystery, they want to go and investigate it. If they hear that someone like little Timmy fell down the well because Lassie comes over and starts barking at them, they're like, all right, I'll follow you, girl. Let's go. I think it's a very easy thing, especially for newer players. They kind of just get caught up in that process, and they get really into it, and that passion is good and exciting, and it's something to be encouraged. But sometimes you just have to be able to want to go on an adventure. I think that's probably the most important thing.
I think some people hearing that, I'm talking to you guys, when you hear make an adventure, you might be thinking like, oh, you're saying I have to make a ranger, like someone who goes on like, travels through the woods and whatever. No, your adventurer can be that acolyte, that student that's like sits and has read books constantly, and maybe they're about to go on their first adventure. But
yeah, maybe they're tired of reading about it. Yeah. I want to go on one of these things.
Exactly. Maybe there's a missing page in that book, and they need to figure that out. And the spot where you might need to suspend your disbelief is like, okay, you are looking specifically for that missing page. You're just one person. You know that missing page is going to be, you're not entirely sure where it is, but it's probably going to be a dangerous journey, and you might need some friends along the way. So when you hear that Jimmy is trapped in that well, Timmy is trapped in that well, somebody's in a well, I don't know, go with that group of adventurers and join them and help them find it. And then someday, when it comes time for you to find that missing page, you bring that up, you work with your DM to figure out that adventure, bite the hooks.
Yes, sometimes metagaming is a good thing. That might be another video in and of itself, but right here, make someone who's going to work with the DM and go on the adventure that they have spent probably hours preparing for you. It's really just about being nice at that point.
The next thing that I would probably say about for a good character is the backstory, right? So many people focus, and I'm definitely guilty of this. Jake can tell you he's been my DM multiple times.
I do it too. You get excited.
Get excited, yeah. You get excited when you're rolling these stats and you make a crazy backstory. That's not always a problem. But I think that A lot of people make characters where when you read their 10-page novel about their character's backstory, you're like, sounds like the most interesting thing in your life has already happened.
Yeah, like the DM says, okay, everybody's gonna start at level 1, and you have like this whole soliloquy, like you're Gilderoy Lockhart from Harry Potter, and he's already written 7 books of the adventures he's gone on. It's like,
Yeah.
You're not level 1, are you?
And I could get crazy on a backstory. I mean, if you've seen our Dragon of Icespire Peak game, Marcus, I wrote out 1,000 years of history for his family name. That was a lot.
He did.
Probably shouldn't do that.
If you're like on the other end of the spectrum and like this concept of like, okay, you want me to just like put this history together for my character, I think you could probably just maybe sum it up with 2 things. Number 1, why are you the class that you are? If you're a wizard, how did you become a wizard? If you're a sorcerer, how did you become a sorcerer? If you're a fighter, who taught you how to fight? Whatever it is, it could be simple. Like, I'm a fighter and I trained because I was a soldier. Okay, awesome. That's a great spot to start. And then the next thing I would say is just, why are you an adventurer now? If you were a soldier that was trained to fight in the army, maybe why are you not active in that service anymore? Or, whatever the case may be. Just try to answer some of those questions. So the next thing I kind of think is fun for me, I think it makes a good character, is have something to lose. Everybody has something that they're afraid to lose in life, whether it's family, friends, their stamp collection, I don't know, whatever it could be. It could be something nerdy, it could be simple, doesn't matter, a special relic or artifact.
Even if you did fall into that trope or cliche or whatever we want to call it of like, my entire family is dead, like whatever. Well, okay, maybe your sword was your father's sword or your mother's sword or whoever's sword, and it means something to you. Or like,
yes,
anything.
It's the only connection point you have, sure.
If you have something to lose, something for you to be vulnerable with, I think that is an easier way for you to, 1, connect with your character, and 2, it makes your character interesting because it makes them real. It gives the DM something to work with, something to threaten. Sometimes, obviously, do that in moderation, DMs. But I think it really makes your character more interesting and more real when they actually have a stake in something.
Kind of just the way I think of it, it gives everybody at the table, DM and other players alike, and yourself included, something to root for, right? Like if you find out somebody steals your father's sword, that your father passed away and you were, that orphan, or, maybe you just grew up without a father, but you had that sword. Someone stole it. Well, there's an adventure right there because we're getting that sword back.
And I guess to piggyback off of the my whole family is dead thing, I could also say, I know it might be tempting, but don't feel like you need to dip into that lone wolf archetype for your character. There's a whole massive list of flaws in the player's handbook, but the only one that a lot of people see is, I don't trust people.
Yeah, we were making fun of that in the intro for a reason. It's something a lot of players just they gravitate towards. I think they like to see those movie characters overcome things like that. It hits home, I think, and maybe that is something your character deals with, but you have to realize that your character is going to go on an adventure, so you're going to at least have to find a reason to, even if it's begrudgingly, trust the other members of the party.
If I'm telling you, don't just choose this one flaw, I should mention flaws and that kind of stuff in general. If you're making a character, if you want your character to be real, really just pay attention to the personality and background section of the player's handbook. There's so many good options in there, whether you roll for it randomly or whether you overthink the crap out of it and look through the flaw list of every single background to choose which one makes the most sense for you.
I totally do that.
Whichever way you do it, there's so much in there for you to pull from.
I really like the last couple editions, 4e and 5e have of Dungeons and Dragons really have some good resources there. I'm not sure if it's chapter 5 or 6 of the 5e player handbook, but it's one of those. And in Player's Handbook 1 for 4e, I think it starts on page 23. even if it's just simple, like how do others perceive you in social interactions? Like, are you, I know I keep going to him once in a while, but like, are you Oren from Parks and Rec that you just creepily stare at people? You just creep them out? Maybe you are. I don't know. How optimistic are you? How trusting are you? We say, maybe skeptical, but maybe you're gullible. Maybe you're someone that just believes everything they're told. How much? Think about how much fun that actually could be to play with at the table. So, and you start to get this framework for who your character is, and a lot more fun than to just be the guy who doesn't trust anyone sitting in the corner by himself.
Not everybody needs to be Stryker from Fellowship of the Ring. Sure, he's a great character throughout the series, but come on. If your entire party is a strong silent type, then it sounds like a party to me.
Yeah, true. I would have to say maybe the last not most important thing, but the last point I think of how you make a good character is, I put as the bullet point here, don't be a jerk. And this does kind of touch on alignment, which is a video I'm sure that we're going to make at some point, because alignment is juicy and everybody's got a different take on it. If you're just making a character to just be a jerk to people, I mean, maybe you're playing in an all evil campaign, I don't know. Try not to have alignments that really clash. Like if someone is, chaotic good in the party and someone else is lawful evil, you just see the world as opposite can be, and I don't know. That's a recipe for disaster, if you ask me.
There's parties where you have different people with different views, and then there's people who have no business adventuring together at all. That doesn't mean you can't, like, for a one shot, sure, that'd be not necessarily be awesome, but that would be interesting.
It's definitely the time and place, though.
Yeah. But for your regular campaign, like, think about your character. If your character is the one, like, evil character, and you're like ruthless and everybody else is good, think about how long you could actually adventure together without having to part your separate ways. Like, is it worth using that character to begin with? Maybe save it for the evil campaign. I don't know. Something to think about.
Yeah, so in today's video, we're going to be talking about a few key points in making a good D&D character.
Yeah, I am so stoked to actually finally make a video about this, because, like, I've just been thinking about, like, flurry of blows, patient defense, step of the wind. Man, there's just so much that monks have to offer, and I feel like they get crapped on a lot as a class. But just with what you could do with those key points is just incredible. It's just so great. I love monks.
I have to agree. Monks are really cool, and key points, KI is awesome. But I was actually key, like keys, like to making a good character. You knew that, right? When we were researching the video?
You like quivering palm, like stuff like that.
No.
No?
No, like how to make a character that actually is going to be fun to play and works with everybody. I mean, you could play a monk. I mean, monks are cool.